It is 10:02. Good morning from the Superbook.com Sports Desk. I'm Lucas Panzica. Big 12 Media Days is officially underway, and new commissioner Brett Yormark spoke for the first time. He doesn't start his job officially until August 1st, but he did declare the Big 12 open for business. The Atlanta Braves defeated the New York Mets at home on Tuesday 4-1 to pull back within 1.5 games of the Mets in the NL East. The Braves can get to half a game back today in the final game of the series, an early first pitch at 11:20. The Nashville Sounds fell at First Horizon Park last night 2-1 to the Memphis Redbirds, playing the second of a 6-game series tonight at 7:05. For all your foundation repair and waterproofing needs, visit USSTN.com. Breaking news at once on your home for the Titans and Vols. This is 104.5 The Zone.
What's happening? Welcome in on this Wednesday. Buck Rising here with you until 1 o'clock. Lucas Panzica is back there making it go. We're happy to have you for the next 3 hours. 615-737-1045 is how you jump in on our conversation today. We got the dumbest thing in sports this week. It's a highlight of my Wednesday. Nothing puts a smile on your face on a hump day like making fun of dumb things in sports. Get to that at 11 o'clock. But we got to start this morning with is this the first of the college media days? The college football media days?
It is the first of the Power 5 Media Days, yes.
Power 5 Media Days. Well, let's keep it to Power 5, shall we? Because that's the only thing that everybody else seems to care about. At least the business of college athletics would indicate that. So, Brett Yormark. If you don't know that name, it's not surprising. His hiring was under-discussed in ways that surprised me when it happened, Lucas, 2 or 3 weeks ago? Not that long ago. Like, this seemed like a very, very instantaneous reaction to everything else that was happening around college athletics.
Yeah, I agree. It went a little bit under the radar.
He's the new commissioner of the Big 12, and that's whose media days opened up this morning. SEC media days taking place next week. Josh Heupel scheduled to speak on Thursday, and you can hear coverage of that right here on 104.5 The Zone, both because Lucas is going to be me on Thursday, and you'll get exhaustive Vols coverage with he and Coach Doug Matthews, and because 3HL is going to be in Atlanta for it. Not Hoover, buddy, but Atlanta.
Yeah, I know.
So, Brett Yormark, who is this man, and why does he matter to the purposes of an SEC-based listening audience? Well, let me tell you. So his background is that of Rock Nation executive. This is somebody whose background is very dissimilar to the other Power 5 conference commissioners. This is somebody who is technically still employed by Jay-Z, as a matter of fact. His first day on the job, I don't believe, is until the first of the month. August, that is. But he had to come out and make some comments, obviously, because his coaches and his players were going to be asked exhaustively about all the changes that are happening in the world of college sports, and specifically with the Big 12, who's does have an edge on the ACC and the carcass of the Pac-12, whatever remains by the time college football season gets going. So Brett Yormark is up there making some comments. And I noticed 2 things from this audio that you're about to hear. One, he's very, very much business-minded in a way that I think you're going to see from the new conference commissioners, the new versions of conference commissioners. And 2, tell me this man doesn't sound like a politician.
What excites me most about joining the Big 12 is the transformative moment in front of all of us today. We have an opportunity to grow and build the Big 12 brand and business, be aspirational, define our point of difference, all while never losing our commitment to always compete and develop our student athletes at the highest levels. Moments like these do not happen often, and we must seize them and make the most of them. It will require incredible work and collaboration. One thing is for sure, there is no doubt the Big 12 is open for business. We will leave no stone unturned to drive value for the conference. Just as I pledged to the board, we will be bold and humble, aggressive and thoughtful, and innovative and creative, all in an effort to position the conference in a way that not only grows the Big 12 brand and business, but makes us a bit more contemporary. Although there will be challenges ahead, Bob has left me an incredible foundation to build upon.
So that's Brett Yormark, the new commissioner of the Big 12. Does that sound like your average collegiate athletics administrator? Does that sound like somebody who has a background? Greg Sankey, for example, several different spots across the course of his career, 13 years with the SEC before ultimately becoming the commissioner of that league, and looking around at all these different guys, whether it's Jim Phillips, the new the new conference commissioner in the ACC, whether it's Bob Bowlesby, the guy who is now Brett Yormark's predecessor at the Big 12, career athletic director, becomes conference commissioner. Those guys, and maybe at some point, do we have any female collegiate conference commissioners? Is that a thing, Lucas?
Certainly not in the Power Five. I'll look into it in the Group of Five, but none that I can name.
Well, regardless, man, woman, whatever the case may be, there is a new generation of what conference commissioners are going to look like. They're going to maximize the value of the conference. That is the first and foremost mission statement. This dude sounds like somebody who's up in front of corporate shareholders, and by the way, he kind of is, who's up there talking to corporate shareholders about what the trajectory is and how much higher their stock price is going to go. Just watch. We're going to take it to the moon, baby, Dogecoin. Now, maybe not that big of a Ponzi scheme, but that's kind of the vibe that I get from Brett Yormark. That's why he was specifically put in this position, to guide the Big 12 into the future, because they need a shark. They need a different kind of executive to navigate what the world of collegiate athletics is about to look like, and already does look like, and is trending more and more that way each and every day. So now you talk about the Big 12, and we're going to get into some football conversation. It feels like we've talked so little football, Lucas, like actual football.
Yeah.
Around this stuff.
On a field with pads and helmets and stuff.
I think that's my fault. I think it's not like you haven't encouraged me to go that direction, but I get so caught up in I love this stuff.
No, but that's the conversation around college football right now. The conversation is not, who's going to win the SEC, Alabama or Georgia, or how wide open is the Big 12. The conversation has been conference realignment without question, which is why I'm excited for media days, because we'll talk about that.
Actual football.
But we're going to talk about football.
Andrew on YouTube says, it's your show. It's your fault. Yeah, I know. I mean, it happens. But we're going to get into which is the most wide open Power 5 conference in college football this year, as now media days is actually upon us. We can start digging into the football in real time while also having this on the back burner, all these different conversations about conference realignment and the things that are going to shape what the actual competitions look like. But in the meantime, man, I didn't see the entire press conference. Lucas was tracking it throughout the course of this morning, but kind of seeing some of the quotes that came out of Brett Yormark and his opening statement as the soon-to-be official Big 12 conference commissioner, because technically he's still at Rock Nation. We've seen statements from Greg Sankey, and Sankey is a public figure. He's somebody who is available almost in more ways than you would think a figure like that should or could be. But now, sitting back looking at the SEC, it's him and it's Notre Dame. It's Greg Sankey and it's Jack Swarbrick. I always struggle with that. Is there a harder last name in college sports than Swarbrick?
Oh, I'm sure there is.
I'm sure we'll find it. 615-737-1045 is how you jump in. But let's have an actual football discussion. It's been too long. We need to scratch the itch. College football is not that far off. Hell, training camp for the Tennessee Titans, their first practice begins 2 weeks from today. So football on the doorstep. Let's get into the weeds on some Power 5 discussions. Which is the most wide open Power 5 conference in college football? SEC, ACC, Big 12, Big 10, and who am I forgetting? Well, the Pac-12. College athletics' most forgotten conference here lately.
If you can still call them that.
The sad, very sad Pac-12.
I guess they still count as the Pac-12.
For now. That's next.
The Buck Rising Show is powered by Spring Hill Heating and Cooling. Visit springhillac.com.
Welcome back. By the way, before we get into your opinion on which Power 5 conference in 2022 is the most wide open, how many potential teams can win any given Power 5 conference? Now, they're not created equal, but we'll discuss that here in just a second. I gotta thank you guys, because you've been kicking some serious tail lately as far as the Brooklyn Bowl event is concerned. Rich Ferris, our promotions master in chief, or whatever the appropriate title is, promotions director, sent me a text this morning about how many tickets we've sold for this thing. I continue to be hugely grateful that you guys show up when we ask you to. So that makes me very happy. Now, it's not sold out yet. So if I could push you a little more, because we think that'd be really, really cool. It's kind of like our buddy Josh Black, who's going to be there. When he sold out Zanies for the first time, and now what does he run? He's running like a 12 consecutive sellout streak at Zanies. Now, we're not doing things like that on a regular basis to where we could have a streak like that. But for a charitable cause, I feel like you guys you've already come through in massive ways. But if a few more of you want to be a part of this great thing that we got going on, it's 7/20, July the 20th. That's a Wednesday at Brooklyn Bowl in downtown Nashville. We're raising money for the church at Mount Carmel's Youth Summer Camp program. We got a bunch of people coming from the station who hang out on the show, whether that's, like I said, Ramon Foster, Coach Mack, Darren Bates. There's going to be a lot of Josh Black. There's going to be a lot of fun people there, all to benefit charity. Your ticket includes free bowling for 3 hours at Brooklyn Bowl. You get your shoes, you get free food, drinks, and raffle tickets. The ticket for the event itself available at 1045thezone.com. So thank you guys again for doing such a great job with that. I hope to see more of you guys out there. All right. So, how many Power 5 conferences can we cross off the list? Should we just do this? This speaks to poor show planning. Should we do this in a way that we say, okay, let's start with the SEC?
Throw it out.
Huh?
Throw it out.
Throw the SEC out?
I don't think it factors into this conversation.
Now, why?
Because it's a two-team race. And you'd be hard-pressed to find anybody that disagrees with that.
All right. I would also agree with that notion. It is between Alabama and Georgia for the SEC. Yes?
Correct.
There is nobody within sniffing distance of them. Who is second in the West? Arkansas? Maybe?
Texas A&M, I imagine, will be the preseason vote by the end of SEC Media Days. But I like Arkansas. I like Arkansas to push A&M for that spot.
A lot of smart people in football do. So, I mean, for obvious reasons, they're building something special under Sam Pittman that's really taken us. I mean, you remember how long did Arkansas go without winning an SEC game? It's like 2 years.
Yeah, the Chad Morris era, the depths of the Chad Morris era were about as bad as we've seen in this league in the last decade. So what Pittman does, it cannot be overstated how impressive it is as a guy who not only never was a head coach, but was never even thought of as a head coaching candidate across college football. It had to be the fit of all fits for Sam Pittman to succeed, and that's exactly what's happened. No, it's been a really, really interesting and fruitful marriage if you're an Arkansas fan. Yeah. All right, so you're removing the SEC from the conversation. How many? Because I feel like the Big Ten's got similar vibes. No? Now, maybe a few more. But is the SEC the only one of the Power 5 conferences that you want to cross off here? For now, yes. Okay. So we will remove the SEC from the conversation because only two teams realistically can win that conference. Let's go down the list. So of the favorites to be back in the college football playoff, you would immediately gravitate towards Ohio State and go then to the Big Ten. How many teams realistically could win the Big Ten? Ohio State. Man, Michigan is kind of a mess. Have you paid attention to them at all? Like how many of their in-state recruits they're missing out on since Harbaugh just kind of, spent
spent his entire offseason thirst trapping the Minnesota Vikings. Didn't even like a 9-hour interview or something to that effect. Come back, didn't get the Vikings job. And he's just like, yeah, I'll stick around at Michigan. Michigan just kind of waiting in the wings. They beat Ohio State. They went to the playoff, and Jim Harbaugh was just like, okay, khakis, glasses, eccentric. Is that still cute? Does that still do it for you guys? No, you tried to leave us for the Minnesota Vikings, you jerk. So Michigan, and obviously losing Josh Gaddis to Miami, the offensive coordinator, Miami, who paid a fat sum of money to get Josh Gaddis to South Florida this offseason. So I don't know what to make of Michigan. Wisconsin's always kind of like hovering around this, but then they get to the big title game and then they get smoked. So how many teams, realistically, would you say could win the Big Ten?
It is hard to put anybody up there with Ohio State right now.
Nobody's close.
Now, especially on offense, with what they bring back, nobody even sniffs that.
They may be more narrow. That may be, the Big Ten may be more necessary to eliminate than even the SEC. Because, at least Georgia threatens. Yeah. Right? And Georgia's the defending title contender.
If Georgia and Alabama play 10 times, right, over the course of the next X amount of weeks, then you could feasibly argue that it could be 5-5. And with Michigan and Ohio State in their current iterations, I don't know that you can make that argument very strongly.
No. So what remains is the ACC, the Pac-12, and the Big 12. Which of those do you believe to be the most wide open?
Big 12. 1,000%.
How many teams?
When I look at the Big 12, I look at 4 teams that could feasibly win the conference, that I will not be shocked if they win the conference. Texas is the number 4 team in the preseason poll. But Texas, if their young offensive line can grow up quickly, can turn into one of the most explosive offenses in college football, 1,000%. Now, the Big 12 plays a lot better defense than people that don't pay attention to the Big 12 think. Defense was what won the Big 12 last year. The Big 12 championship was determined by a goal line stand last season.
Right.
Oklahoma State had one of the best defenses in the country. They bring in Derek Mason to run that thing this year. And Baylor was picked to win the Big 12, I believe, for the first time ever. Got 17 first-place votes as opposed to Oklahoma, who got 12. And then you have Oklahoma factoring in. Brent Venables running the show, obviously established as a defensive coordinator at Oklahoma and then Clemson. Dylan Gabriel, I think, was one of the more underrated transfer portal moves of the offseason. Gabriel is one of the best QBs in the country statistically under Jeff Lebby and Josh Heupel, but Lebby was the offensive coordinator at UCF. Lebby is the offensive coordinator at Oklahoma. So, and then you throw in, obviously, Oklahoma State with Mike Gundy.
You mean Ole Miss, right? Not UCF.
Lebby was at UCF with Dylan Gabriel.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Lebby worked for Josh Heupel at UCF.
Got it.
So Oklahoma State returned Spencer Sanders, arguably the best returning quarterback situation in the league as well. So you're looking at Baylor, Oklahoma State, and Texas. And I can see any one of those 4 teams making a run and winning the conference. There's no divisions, obviously. It's just 1 through 10. Best 2 teams at the end of the season play for the conference title. I don't know who that's going to be. I have no idea. But I love how wide open the Big 12 is this year, and I think it's going to make for some entertaining football.
Dave Aranda has done a tremendous job at Baylor, but they lost a lot, coming out of last year. They lost their top 3 statistical wide receivers. Abram Smith, their stud running back. Jalen, I always butcher his last name. I think it's Peter, the safety that was drafted, I think in the 2nd round this year. He went pretty high. He was a good prospect. I remember watching a lot of his and I don't know that he's just like an outright safety because they played him all over the place. Terrell Bernard as well, the linebacker, leaving Baylor after last season. So kind of looking at this, I don't know. I mean, Brent Venables, is Oklahoma like the biggest wild card of teams that we think should be good? Because that's kind of where I'm stuck. Like I know what they are. I know what they have done historically. I know how much Lincoln Riley has taken from them in his defection from Oklahoma to USC over the course of the last year. But I don't know what to make of Brent Venables specifically. He's been talked about as a head coaching candidate for a long, long time. Yeah. He has had multiple. In fact, he's had his pick of a lot of different opportunities while being the Clemson defensive coordinator. He's put together very, very successful units on that side of the ball and is regarded as one of the better coaches in the sport. But I just don't know enough about him in a role like that to understand how that's going to translate at Oklahoma in year one.
They had more roster attrition than anybody in the Big 12, but they also
Sure,
arguably
you got poached.
Yeah, absolutely pillaged by Lincoln Riley, but they also arguably had the best transfer portal class of the offseason, led by Dillon Gabriel. So Brent Venables is the wild card in that as a first-time head coach who, as you said, was always chased after, but was just always waited for the right opportunity. This obviously was the right opportunity for him. But with Dillon Gabriel there and the potential improvements we might see on defense at Oklahoma, I am very interested in that Red River rivalry, which was the highest scoring edition of that game ever in 2021. Texas comes back with what should be a more potent offense. Oklahoma comes back with what could be a more potent offense with Dillon Gabriel at quarterback. So that game is going to be a pivotal moment in the Big 12 season. But, yeah, it's really fascinating because Baylor and Oklahoma State were in the Big 12 championship game last year. And you love to see that when it looks like Oklahoma and Texas have 2 years, maybe, to win the Big 12, kind of like Lincoln Riley, what we talk about in the Pac-12. Lincoln Riley's got 2 years officially to win the Pac-12 before they become a Big 10 school. Well,
Texas gets swallowed up by Iowa.
Yeah, Texas and Oklahoma, they're going to want to win the Big 12 before they come over to the SEC. And they're going to have about 2 years to do that, you would think. Maybe 3.
So just looking at Oklahoma's schedule specifically, like it gets tough once they get basically to the end, once they get to Halloween weekend, basically, because they're at Iowa State, they host Baylor, at West Virginia, and hosting Oklahoma State. They finish the regular season with at Texas Tech. But otherwise, I mean, the threat there, it's just that the unknown of Baylor is weird for me. You're right. It's a legitimately fascinating conversation to look at preseason because so much is in flux. That's honestly what I love right now about college football or the idea of college football. I think that in ways that we have seen this offseason where just even the perception of NIL having such an impact, even if it doesn't have like an actual tangible impact, whether it's, $8 million deals like is alleged about Nico Iamaleava or, more closer to the average, which is like $350, right? There is so much that NIL has kind of spurred with the transfer portal. And in ways that I think you saw, I mean, obviously more activity than you've ever seen, man. When you talk to people in the football world about this stuff, coaches are terrified how much crazier it's going to get by next December. When you've seen just how many different kinds of players made their decision either because of the transfer portal and then with the additional carrot of NIL. It's such an imitation or something that I think is going to be imitated so frequently by college kids in the same way that you were seeing transfers anyway, because a quarterback commits to a school, there's another quarterback in front of him, all of a sudden he wants out and he wants to start for another program, even if he's going to end up, who's the 27-year-old former Vols quarterback? Dormandy.
Quentin Dormandy?
Quentin Dormandy. Just
no N, just Dormandy.
Dormandy?
Yeah.
No.
It's not Dormandy.
I've been calling him Dormandy he's been in college football for 7 years, so I should have learned his name, but it's like Garantano. I didn't know it was Garantano until he finally told us.
That was on him.
Yeah, anyway. But now you've got a situation where the one-time transfer has been in place for some time now, and it's expedited things. But additionally, just the idea of NIL is going to throw so much of this stuff in. I mean, it's going to be mega free agency, but every year with college rosters. And I know if you're fans of a certain college football team, you don't like that because you want your best players to stay with your program as long as humanly possible. You want to produce pros and you want to continue to build on that success. Where I'm looking around and I'm like, yeah, build me a super team. Let me see USC do it. I'm excited about the prospect of what that may, with the idea of transfer portal, Lincoln Riley, and name, image, and likeness at an institution like USC, what can that actually build? What can that do for Miami, for USC, for Tennessee? I think that's going to be a big part of the conversation around Tennessee.
So we put it to a poll. What's the most wide open Power 5 conference on the field? Because I think you could easily mistake that for a conference realignment conversation. 34% say it's the Big 12. 22% across the board. Big 10, Pac-12, ACC. I left the SEC out. You obviously only get 4 options. Said reply for SEC. Nobody's replying. So 22% evenly believe the Big 10, the Pac-12, and the ACC so far are on even keel as far as teams that could feasibly win the thing. And with the Pac-12, we talked about it already, the odds of Utah and USC tied as the favorites to win that in many sports books. And then with the ACC, it's obviously Clemson and everybody else.
Well, it's really not Clemson and everybody else. Like, Clemson had a down year and won 10 games, right? And their uncertainty at quarterback is something that I think is going to continue to be a conversation. DJ is wildly inaccurate. Like, watching some of their games back just to kind of get a feel on, all right, who's legitimately going to be in this thing as we go down the stretch. I do not feel it's like watching Joe Milton, more talented Joe Milton. That's what I felt like watching the Clemson quarterback make throws. So you can still win 10 games that way with a quarterback who you largely regard as inaccurate, even if he's prototypically everything else that you're looking for at that position. I mean, NC State and Wake Forest, man, they are no slouches. Like, that game at the end of the regular season came down to some weird officiating calls, the ACC championship, but it could have just as easily been NC State in the title game as opposed to Wake Forest, but by nature of winning that final regular season game in the ACC, Wake Forest was playing in the title game and ultimately lost to Pitt. Pitt's not going to be the same. So, I mean, realistically, I don't know that Clemson is the standard. They have been the standard. They have earned that right. But I really think that NC State, Wake Forest, or even Miami's probably got the most all-around talented quarterback of any team in that conference who at least, I know the offense is changing a little bit, and we'll see how Josh Gaddis plays to his strengths, but I think Miami's got the best quarterback of the bunch. ACC's got some really fun quarterbacks that have been in the game for a long time. Devin Leary, who came out of the 2018 class with Will Levis, and Trevor Lawrence, which seems like an eternity ago. He's still at NC State. You've got a lot of fun teams in the ACC this year.
There's just such a talent gap across the board between Clemson and everybody else. And when you look at it, BetMGM has Clemson minus 140 to win the ACC. Miami, the second favorite at plus 700.
Oh, I'd bet Miami.
Now, that's not even the biggest gap in the Power 5. BetMGM has in the Big 10, Ohio State at minus 250, Michigan at plus 900. As the second favorite. So clearly, Vegas believes that there is a large gap between Ohio State and the rest of the Big Ten. Same goes for Clemson and the ACC. A year where Clemson is down and they win 10 games, which I love. By the way, almost nobody played Georgia closer in the regular season than Clemson did.
It was that game was such a slog, man.
Yeah, defensive battle. Pitt gets hot. Kenny Pickett, obviously a first-round draft pick. Jordan Addison, Biletnikoff Award winner. He's now a USC player. They win the ACC. I just don't see how anybody in the conference can overcome the talent gap between Clemson and everybody else. Miami will get there. They're on a trend. They're on the road to getting there with Mario Cristobal, and they'll be improved, but I just don't see it. I mean, outside of the Big 12, and really the Pac-12 should be in this conversation as far as how close USC and Utah are. They're kind of right there with the SEC, but I think the Big 12 it's the Big 12 and then 50 feet, and then everybody else. As far as wide open, multiple teams that can win it, 3 or more, it is the Big 12.
I think I have to disagree. I have no idea what to make of the Pac-12. USC is favored coming off a year where they won 4 games.
Yeah. It's night and day. It's night and day on coaching staff, roster, both sides of the ball at the quarterback position.
No, I know. But, I mean, from 4 games to conference champion would be a pretty no matter how good the upgrades on the roster are, no matter how much better Lincoln Riley is at running a program than Clay Helton. Like, to go from 4 wins to conference champion in a year is insane.
Auburn did it in the best conference in college football. Went from 3-9 to SEC champs and losing the national championship to Florida State that was the 2013 season under Gus Malzahn.
Was that Jameis? No.
Yes.
2013?
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
no, I guess that
Winston, Jalen Ramsey.
I guess that would have lined up, yeah.
Yeah. Auburn goes 3-9. Gene Chizik gets fired.
It just made me feel so old.
And they win the SEC. Now you could talk about how they won the SEC when you had the miracle against Georgia and then the kick 6 against Alabama. But they win the SEC with a defensive back at quarterback with Nick Marshall.
I forgot about Nick Marshall.
Yeah.
He went to the league as a corner for a little while.
Yeah, as a because that's what he was. He was a converted defensive back. So, it took a couple miracles to get there, and they ultimately fall short in what was an awesome national championship game. But
that's as impressive a coaching job as I've seen in college football in a long time. What Gus Malzahn was able to do on offense, like you said, with the kind of personnel limitations that they clearly and obviously had.
Yeah, so in a conference as weak as the Pac-12 is top to bottom, I'm not scoffing at the idea that USC can go from 4-8 to beating out Utah for a conference championship with everything they have at their disposal.
Is there a wild card, though, in the Pac-12 that threatens?
Potentially Oregon.
Dan Lanning, former Georgia defensive coordinator.
Yeah, it's still a good roster. He's recruiting very well there, and Bo Nix is the starting quarterback at Oregon. So it'll be an interesting fit in the West Coast, but I think if you have to have an X factor or a wild card, it would be Oregon. Looking at...
I'm happy that Bo Nix got... I mean, I don't know Bo Nix. I'm sure he's a lovely guy. Personally, I'm happy that Bo Nix got banished to the Pac-12. I don't want to watch Bo Nix on a regular basis anymore.
Oregon plus 300 on BetMGM to win the Pac-12. Utah plus 250. USC plus 200.
I want Utah to win the Pac-12. I want them to win. I want Kyle Whittingham, somebody to... It's almost like in the NFL, right? Like Titans fans, we talked about persecution complexes yesterday and how, they're perpetually not favored over the Colts in their own division. It's Kyle Whittingham and Utah. This is basically the best parallel that I have for what the Titans are as far as overall perception about what the football program is. And yes, still, they beat the teams that you think or project that they should have no business beating. Love Kyle Whittingham at Utah. 615-737-1045. Interesting trends in Tennessee recruiting since we're in the college football game right now. There was something pointed out by the VolQuest crew that I found very, very interesting about a particular position that Tennessee has never had better success with than they have in just the last couple of weeks. We're going to talk about that coming up next. Welcome back. Buck Rising here with you until 1 o'clock. Dumbest thing in sports this week. It's coming up in 15 minutes from now. Prepare your submissions. Be ready. People keep telling me that the sports landscape is scarce in July. I feel, Lucas, that we've found stuff to talk about, compelling stuff of consequence to talk about every day, so much so that we've had to roll over content to the next day, and we still may not even get to all of that. It's been pretty good so far. So it should not be that hard to find a dumbest thing in sports this week. I promise you that we have ours prepared. 615-737-1045 is how you jump in if you would like. So I mentioned that I was listening to, I was consuming the VolQuest podcast. They do a great job, kind of roundtable discussions on just basically the week in Tennessee football news. That's the focal point. And in listening to it and kind of going through the different things that have happened, obviously, with the recruiting that Tennessee has done, and basically kind of trends that you're starting to notice, right? Nitty-gritty stuff that may get glossed over on the surface level and outside of just reacting with excitement to the news that, hey, Tennessee got a 5-star defensive end to pair with a 4-star defensive end in Caleb Herring, who is also happens to be the number 1 overall recruit in the state of Tennessee for the 2023 class. And we were kind of working through this morning about how to best discuss this. And Lucas had brought up a point. Does this class under Josh Heupel, the excitement around it, there's a little bit of hyperventilation. You've got legitimately star-studded prospects coming in to bolster what you've got. And even if there is attrition, as there always is, whether that's transfer portal once you get them on campus or if they may or may not even make it to campus as a complete class as we sit here on July the 13th. Does the hype around Heupel, how does it compare to like Butch Jones signing a top 5 recruiting class in the 2014 season? Looking at what Jeremy Pruitt did. Jeremy Pruitt, who was, considerably heralded for the success that he and his staff were having during the virtual recruiting period, the virtual college football offseason in the middle of the pandemic, right? Can't hand out $100 or $1,000 McDonald's bags then, unless you're doing it on Zoom, Venmo transfers, whatever is being alleged. But Jeremy Pruitt also had a considerable amount of excitement around him as recently as 2020. So how does this differ from what Josh Heupel is currently doing versus what Vols fans were experiencing around Butch at the height of Butch Jones, it would seem? And he would go on to win, 8 and 9 win seasons. Ultimately, they kind of cratered in his final year, and by that time, Vols fans and basically the world of college football had it with him. They had to send him to the Alabama coaching rehab program. I don't know how to best describe the differences. What I do see, though, with Josh Heupel is kind of what I liked about their coaching staff and the on-the-field product. They have an identity. They've got a plan. They execute the plan with the personnel that they have on the roster, and things go about as well as could be expected given the circumstances that they were up against. I felt confident in knowing what I was going to get from the Tennessee coaching staff on a week-in, week-out basis. We have discussed at great length, all right, defense. Let's get this thing balanced out a little bit. Let's see how they kind of cope with the fact that your offense is going to largely be fine. And that was something that Steve Wilfong of 24/7 Sports spoke on yesterday. The idea that it's not just what Tennessee is doing with under Josh Heupel's staff. It's where they're kind of spreading out and the wins that they're kind of getting, not just in the state of Tennessee, but in states where other SEC teams are competing.
You look at the state of Georgia. The Bulldogs are going to have first say oftentimes on who they get. Then you got Alabama, Clemson's coming in there and swinging too. But there's enough good players to go around, and recruiting's who you get, not who you don't get. And I think in Tennessee, they go into the state of Georgia, and you get Caleb Williams or Caleb Webb and Justin Williams, and you went out for James Pierce, who you had visited 6 times. Those, in my opinion, are guys that can help you, defeat the teams that maybe weren't pursuing them as hard as you were.
So that's Steve Wiltfong on the radio show yesterday, and this is the kind of momentum that you want to see capitalized on, right? 5-star edge rusher Chandavian Bradley comes in. He's not just a 5-star. He's not just at a position of need, but he's the best overall player in the state of Missouri. So you got the best overall player in the state of Missouri. You got the best overall player in the state of Tennessee, and they both come at the same position. Now, I think that Bradley, based on what I read and understand about him, I haven't, to be completely transparent, I haven't watched a bunch of high school tape on him just yet. But my understanding is that he is comfortable and can be used dropping back into coverage as well. Like, he is a more versatile player than Caleb Herring might be. I assume that's a part of what sets him over the top as a 5-star prospect. But kind of looking at just those 2 players, I mean, we talked about, Derek Barnett and how that was one of the better edge defenders that the University of Tennessee has had on their roster in some time. He was a bit of an anomaly on the teams that he played on. He went on to be, I believe, a 2nd-round pick by the Philadelphia Eagles. And as
Derek?
Yes.
No, he was a 1st-round pick.
A 1st-round pick.
Yeah, I believe he was taken in the same selection Reggie White was, actually.
Oh, really?
After
Which is ironic.
His sack record. Yeah.
That's right. He broke Reggie White's sack record. So looking at what you have there, and there are occasional Derek Barnetts, right? That you can sprinkle them. I mean, obviously Tennessee has a proud history when it comes to defensive line, whether it's Haynesworth, whether it's Reggie White. Like, there are names that you could go down the history of Tennessee football, but I'm talking recent memory. Guys that kind of pop out to you that are impact players at a critical position. I could not, this question was posed on the VolQuest podcast, and it made me sit back and think about it. I cannot think of a time when they've had as many different options at that position, a position of critical need, as they now seem to be building up, where everything else that you get on the defensive line is cherry because it's already good.
Yeah, last season alone, Joshua Josephs and Pierce, James Pierce, that duo of 4-star edge rushers could rival almost any class that Tennessee had at that position since the Butch Jones era.
Right.
And then this year, you've got, as you said, the number 1 player in Missouri, the number 1 player in Tennessee. They both play the same position, and they're both in the same recruiting class. I think a lot of that has to do with Mike Eckler, outside linebackers coach, special teams coach that has been a force for Tennessee on the recruiting trail. Heupel has certainly benefited as far as his assistants go, more on the defensive side of the ball than on offense. Obviously, Rodney Garner, his resume speaks for itself as the defensive line coach. But you're right. I mean, Butch Jones' best recruiting class in Tennessee was 2015. Kyle Phillips was the number 2 player in that class, was a 5-star edge rusher, did not reach the heights that were probably expected of him. Ended up being a solid player for Tennessee, actually. Kind of bled into the Jeremy Pruitt era, but certainly not like 5-star talent type of production. But right now, what's happening at that position, a position Tennessee hasn't been known to recruit at the top of college football, is interesting. I think a lot of credit should be given to Mike Eckler.
615-737-1045. What'd Bradley call him in the VolQuest interview? A maniac?
Oh, Eckler?
Yeah.
Yes, a maniac.
He's a maniac.
From what we've heard, yes, that is true. Chili's always hot.
You could always use one of those guys. Scott in Bethpage is here with us on 105.
Hey, what's up?
Zone. What's happening, Scott?
Hey, what's up, guys? You was wanting comparisons to the excitement levels for the different heights of the previous 2 coaches, and why I'm looking forward to Heupel. For one thing, I went to spring games with the other 2, and I watched them on the sidelines coaching in spring games. The one thing I can tell you about Heupel that I noticed right off the bat, dude is a football coach, and he is a well-spoken person to the media. So I like that first and foremost. Second of all,
are you alleging that Jeremy Pruitt was not? How dare you?
No. And it's not, and everybody thought he was, and everybody thought Cornbread was a good coach. Okay, everybody was excited about a SEC guy coming back to Tennessee, run the ball, all that good stuff. Well, Butch Jones, the one thing about him and his recruits, he had that great class, right? But let's look at what they did. None of them got better. None of them improved.
Yeah.
Derek Barnett was good his freshman year. Derek Barnett stayed good. Derek Barnett was good no matter what.
Yeah.
Jalen Hurd was good no matter what. Josh Malone was good no matter what. Alvin Kamara was underused no matter what. Everybody just stayed the same. They stayed stagnant. With Heupel, you've seen marked improvement. Hooker, Tillman, Bayless Jones, the defensive players, all of them got better. So that's why we're excited about the recruits. And look, I want to tell you something. I know the music's out there, but y'all got to hear me on this. These athletes that they're recruiting, these are different athletes than what has been recruited at Tennessee before successfully. Thank you. Have a good day. As always, tons and tons, dump trucks full of love. Love you, boys.
Love you too, Scott.
He called Jeremy Pruitt cornbread.
Yeah. Well, you haven't heard that nickname?
No.
You know where that comes from?
Oh, my God.
That's my guy, Luke Slaybaugh, used to work at Channel 10 in Knoxville. Asked Jeremy Pruitt. It was just like one of those, 20 questions, like quick hit stuff.
Yeah.
His favorite food. And he just thought for a second, went, cornbread.
Can you find that audio? It would make me very, very happy to hear Jeremy Pruitt. I shouldn't make fun of the way somebody talks, all right? Because it's not like, I don't think anybody thought Jeremy Pruitt was unintelligent, but just depend on who you ask. And not all that well regarded by high school coaches in the local area, I might add. So maybe something to that. All right, 615-737-1045. We can get more of your phone calls in on this. On the other side, we got the dumbest thing in sports this week as well. Stick around. A lot
It is 11:02. Good morning from the Superbook.com sports desk. I'm Lucas Panzica. Big 12 Media Days started today. Brett Yormark, the new commissioner, spoke for the first time since taking over his new role, although he doesn't officially start until August 1st, stating that the Big 12 is open for business and exploring all expansion options. The Nashville Sounds fell at First Horizon Park last night 2-1 to the Memphis Redbirds, playing the second of a 6-game series tonight. That's at 7:05. And the Braves have an early first pitch coming up in about 15 minutes against the New York Mets after winning yesterday to pull back within 1.5 games back of the Mets in the NL East. Like I said, first pitch coming up from Atlanta at 11:20. For all your foundation repair and waterproofing needs, visit USSTN.com. Breaking news at once on your home for the Titans and Vols. This is 104.5 The Zone.
All right, here we go. Hour number 2 off and rolling here on this Wednesday. Welcome in to 104.5 The Zone. Welcome back if you've been hanging out with us this morning. We're happy to have you either way. Lucas Panzica, he's back there making it go. You can jump in on the show if you want, 615-737-1045. Brandon Williams, who is doing great work as the director of New Beginning International Ministry and a diehard Titans fan. He's he's doing a lot of charitable work as a community activist, and we're going to have him in studio here in just a bit to talk about some of the work that he's doing and how you can help. But we've been talking about cornbread.
That made you happy, didn't it? I can't believe you never saw that.
I don't know how I could have missed it.
You were here for the entire Jeremy Pruitt era.
Oh, sure. There was so precious little interesting about Jeremy Pruitt's tenure that I would have loved the opportunity to have the cornbread interview at my disposal in any form or fashion, whether because this was pre-radio show. But still, like, I'm very upset, one, that I haven't heard the cornbread sound, but also delighted that we are going to at some point play that today. Yes?
I'm gonna have to text my buddy Luke. He works, I believe, in Tulsa now. He's in an Oklahoma market. But he worked in Knoxville, Channel 10, where our friend Madison Blevins works, and got that interview answer, and that went viral for a hot minute. But it is funny what Scott said about Josh Heupel being just a ball coach and a well-spoken guy, and Tennessee's just gone this route of replacing head coaches with the complete and polar opposite, right? When you look at Fulmer to Kiffin. Fulmer, just that sort of aging college football Hall of Famer, down-home East Tennessee guy, to Kiffin, the young, brash guy in his early 30s saying, we're going to beat the hell out of Florida, sing Rocky Top all night long, and Urban Meyer's cheating. And then go from Kiffin to Dooley, going back to the Southern roots thing. Dooley, just totally polar opposite personalities. And then Dooley to Butch, and then Butch to Pruitt, and then Pruitt to Heupel. It's just so funny how they've sort of gone back and forth with these sort of personalities over the years.
I mean, it's like presidents, right?
Yeah.
After somebody spends so much time in office, you tend to vote for the opposite. You're like, I'm sick of this guy.
So they can just revoke everything that was done before.
Yeah, get him out of here.
Yep. That's how it
speaks
is.
to a larger issue, but either way. Jay in East Nashville is up next. What's up, Jay?
Hey, Buck. Hey, Lucas. Good to talk to you. First-time caller, long-time listener.
Love that.
Just wanted to make a quick little comment on the difference I feel like we have between this Heupel recruiting class and the previous one. Big thing for me is just we got a quarterback. Consensus 5-star. Most people, we've never had that before. But more than anything, is I think we just have a competent coach who's going to actually develop this talent and manage the locker room. So we're not going to have a million people leaving. But love listening to you guys, and just I'll go ahead and hang up and listen.
Look at Jay. He's playing all the notes. He's playing all the hits, and he did it in less than 60 seconds. It is possible, despite what some others believe. So Brandon Rushing, by the way, wrote in the YouTube chat, I just got nauseous when Lucas named off all of those coaches. Yeah, there's a lot of that going around. Now, the confidence in Heupel, I only, not because I don't find it credible, I do. You talk to enough people. My connections to the college game are typically by way of the NFL, so it's a little secondhand. the way that I learn about how these coaches in just terms of, and, you know, talking to people like Dawn and Ramon who spend time around SEC programs and college coaches anyway by nature of who they are and what they do. So I'm not saying that I want to be cautious with the optimism about Josh Heupel, but I swear, man, after that Gator Bowl, y'all love Jeremy Pruitt. Like, people really, really liked the direction that things were heading under Pruitt.
He's just a ball coach, right? He didn't care about what he said to the media or how he appeared in the newspapers like Butch did. He was just a ball coach.
No, it's a justification, right? You try to fit the thing, in this case, cornbread, into what it is. Yeah. I'm going to call him that for the rest of the time.
That's what people were saying, right? That was what people loved about Pruitt.
No. Yeah, but it's square peg, round hole type of thing, right? You're trying to jam your narrative about whatever your coach is into what you think most benefits the program.
Yeah.
So I'm not saying that optimism is not warranted about Josh Heupel. I think I'm more excited about Lucas's football team than Lucas is, which is perplexing to me. But I think the thing about any of this stuff is there's just so many unknowns, so much unpredictability. Now, nobody could have looked at the Gator Bowl situation and said, yeah, that team's going to lose to, well, no, Georgia State was at the start of that season.
Correct.
So that's a different.
Yeah. Or to say that team's going to go 3-7 next year.
Right.
Yeah.
But, I mean, pandemic, all manner of different things. Like, I don't know how much, I don't think Jeremy Pruitt would have lasted much longer anyway. It looked like there was basically that was trending in that direction.
Oh, yeah. That was a 4-8, 5-7 at best team in the pandemic year if it were to be a normal year.
Right. Looking at all of this, you know, I think it's okay to just take a step back and be like, hey, all right, why does this feel different? Why am I doing this again? Why am I feeling these things again? Why? What is being evoked in me? Is it just desperation? Is it just long time lusting after some kind of football competency? And anytime you get a sniff in the last 15 years, you get all excited again. I had this experience, and then we'll do the dumbest thing in sports, I promise.
Yeah.
I had this experience the other day when I was listening to Gary Parrish on the college basketball podcast, and he told me that Indiana has not been in a Final Four since 2002. It's been 20 years. 20 years. And you ask me why I'm miserable as a sports fan.
So you get it.
Dumbest thing in sports. Let's do it. Uh-oh.
Let's be
Lost
honest.
it for a sec.
You've already seen something this week that made you say,
What the is this?
That's bullshit.
What the hell? Give me some more now.
something so mind-numbingly idiotic that you just want to get it off your chest.
Dumber than a second coat of paint.
Some idiot.
You are really dumb. For real.
It's the dumbest thing in sports this week on the Buck Rising Show.
It most certainly is. It's presented by Painter Ready Murfreesboro, a faith-based company. Their mission is to provide the highest quality painting services available. They won the Ruthie's Award in 2019, 2020, and 2021 for the best residential and commercial painting. They offer a complete range of services, all of which meet the highest industry standards. You can give them a call at 615-PAINTER for a quote or visit painterreadymurfreesboro.com. All right, 615-737-1045. What is the dumbest thing in sports this week? Lucas, I think I have. Do I have Sounds tickets to give away for this?
Yes.
That is something that was put out on Twitter that just happened in the middle of the show. I don't have information for that at my disposal. Do you know which game I'm giving away for the Nashville Sounds?
Yes, a pair of tickets for tonight's game against the Memphis Redbirds at First Horizon Park.
Excellent. So if you want to go to First Horizon tonight, we got a pair of tickets for you. All you got to do is give us the dumbest thing in sports this week. So I had been looking, kind of sniffing around some different options. And the thing that caught my attention was this Formula One situation and what has been going on in international Formula One broadcasting. So the headline reads, F1 commentator suspended by TV network after calling driver Lance Stroll the autistic, calling him that by name. Basically, so I'm going to butcher. He's a French journalist who's on their F1. I don't know that the television network is RTBF Sports. They broadcast the Austrian Grand Prix on Sunday, and his Lionel something from. I'm going to butcher it or I'm going to sound like an idiot. Either way. So he's the commentator on the broadcast. So the cars are going around. The commentator who is doing the problematic thing here is speaking in French, and he calls Lance Stroll the autistic when referencing the driver. And when his broadcast partner condemned him for the words, he fired back, quote, "Honestly, this is the truth." Lucas, I believe we have that audio. Shall we play that for the audience?
C'est pas Lance Stroll, l'autiste, qui va leur expliquer.
Vous y allez fort.
Mais non, mais c'est la vérité, franchement.
Did you get all that?
Yeah, I understood every word.
Well, actually, I understood. Here's the problem. I understood the problematic part. The problem for Lionel is that even in French, for those of us who do not speak it, I understood the problematic part. You can't, what a wretched thing to, there's so many issues with it. Do not put those who deal with autism down that way on a public setting, on a network television broadcast, to use that as a term to demean another human being and then to try and justify it as honestly, it's true. What on earth are you doing, buddy? And this is like one of the most high-profile people in the world of international F1 coverage.
Yeah.
This is one of the premier, writers who apparently is on the television broadcast as well in the sport. And he's speaking this way.
Yeah, this is like a week removed away, too, from legendary Brazilian F1 driver Nelson Piquet using a racial slur when talking about Lewis Hamilton in an interview. So it hasn't been a great couple of weeks PR-wise for Formula One.
Turns out a lot of racism in international sports. What's your dumbest thing in sports this week?
My dumbest thing in sports this week is ESPN.
Uh-oh.
So yesterday, your winner of the weekend was Jon Morant for his comments about Michael Jordan, saying he would have cooked him one-on-one. Now, we know Josh said that, because we heard Josh say it.
Yep.
We played the audio from Jon Morant himself during his interview with Taylor Rooks.
Saw it with my own eyes.
So, a satirical sports entity on Twitter by the name of @BallsackSports says, or puts out a fake quote from Jon Morant and says, quote, "If you put MJ in today's game, he's just another superstar. We got me, Steph, Luka, Dame, Trey, and then guys like Bron, KD, Giannis, Kawhi. It's not just one superstar and a bunch of, average dudes. You feel?" Very clearly, not a real comment.
Do we know who ran with it? Like who specifically? Not to shame.
Sure. So it was on the show This Just In, which is Max Kellerman's show. But oh goodness, what Jalen and Jacoby? What's Jacoby's full name?
Oh, David Jacoby.
David Jacoby. David Jacoby was filling in for Max Kellerman. I don't know how much of this is David's fault, if it's his production team or whatever, but they ran with it. Can you believe Jon Morant said this? MJ would have been just another player, just another superstar.
That's like me saying yesterday, except those are actual words that came out of my mouth into a microphone for everybody to hear, see, and witness on the radio show yesterday when I said that nobody under 30 cares about Michael Jordan's basketball career.
Yeah, which I still disagree with. But here is the apology from David Jacoby, which I love because they're in the middle of a conversation about Rob Gronkowski, and to his left on the screen is our friend and NFL expert Diana Rousseau.
No, I saw this. I saw this live.
To the right on the screen is NFL expert reporter Jeff Darlington. And here is David Jacoby apologizing for a fake quote they put out by Jon Morant.
Right now, I want to quickly address something that happened on this program yesterday. We made a mistake. We attributed a quote to Jon Morant's appearances on Taylor Rooks' show on Bleacher Report that he simply did not say. On behalf of the network, the show's staff, and myself, I'd like to apologize to Ja and Taylor for our error. We will work hard to make sure it doesn't happen again.
David Jacoby, courtesy of ESPN. I just texted Diana. We just played the Jacoby apology. Why the hell were you on the screen? She wouldn't. She's not going to out a teammate like that. But that's like when Rachel Nichols had that incident with Maria Taylor, and the comments made. Now I still think what happened to Rachel Nichols was wildly unfair because she was being recorded in the privacy of her hotel room, and it kind of gets into the, it doesn't make the comments right. It's just a situation like you can't. At what point is privacy just completely disregarded from the conversation, even if the comments are still problematic, which of course they are. They had Kendrick Perkins and Richard Jefferson on camera with her, like sitting to the right and to the left of her while she apologized on national television. And that's what I kept thinking during the Jacoby thing. Like, it's much, much less serious. Like, it's just, you got by Ballsack Sports, which is great. I love that it's going to happen to us one day, and then I'm going to be filled with tremendous shame for making fun of people for who this happened to. But like, why is Jeff Darlington and Diana on the screen? Get them out of there. They have nothing to do with the Ballsack Sports Report. We're going to have Brandon Williams come in here and talk about the community activism that he's doing as a diehard Titans fan. Coming up next.
The Buck Rising Show is powered by Spring Hill Heating and Cooling. Visit springhillac.com.
Buck Rising here with you until 1 o'clock. We are going to get into some Titan stuff here in just about 30 minutes. There's another top 10 list, this time wide receivers, and a notable omission on the top 10 receivers list that I think, just as a means of therapy, you, me, Lucas, everybody within the sound of my voice, we're just going to use this as an opportunity for a moment of therapy because the omission is laugh out loud funny. I'll explain that just a little later in the show. 615-737-1045 is how you jump in on the conversation if you would like. We are getting ready to have Brandon Williams come in studio here and talk about some work that he has been doing as a community activist to feed hungry children in the Middle Tennessee area. So Brandon is a diehard Titans fan, and we've been doing these segments, especially during the offseason, where we have people who do great work in the local community, whether it's Stephen Young at Home Street Home or Bishop Marcus Campbell with the Church at Mount Carmel and the free youth summer programs that they put on, and the one that we're obviously raising money for at Brooklyn Bowl. So we thought we'll use the weeks leading up until training camp when we have some downtime to promote some really, really good causes. So if there's, by the way, before Brandon steps in here, if there is a charitable organization that you guys would like to nominate for us to be able to bring in and to learn a little more about and to share their message about the work that they're doing in Middle Tennessee to support the community, we're in that mode right now. We only have a couple of weeks left to do this, but if it is a great cause, we want to find ways to support it. So we've been happy to be able to do segments like this all summer long, or at least the last 3 weeks. Facebook Live, YouTube, Twitter, and Twitch is where you can watch the show on Zone TV. On YouTube, Derek R. writes, "We have to go to therapy? I don't want to." Well, let me tell you, this is a therapy session that you guys are going to want to be a part of. It is laugh out loud funny. It's going to be therapeutic in a good way. It's going to be a relief, I promise you. Now, Lucas has gone down to get Brandon, but Brandon is not there. Lucas, Brandon is not there?
No.
Okay. I suppose he said he was out front of the building. This is not ideal. Call me, I can't find it. He just texted me. I'm like, should we call him? Should we call him on the air?
Just text me his number. I'll take care of it. Let's not do that to him.
I don't know. I think that'd be funny. Like, how much you want to bet he's at the 2nd Avenue building? This is such an inside reference for thousands of people who are not listening to this. I kind of want to call him on the air, but if you think it's a bad idea, I can text you his number.
Yeah, I don't want to do that to Brandon.
Okay. Well, you're a better person. Now, like I said, we are supporting a great cause, so I want to make sure that we can do this. But yeah, that tends to happen around here. Anyway, well, in the meantime, we can get into a discussion that's kind of piqued my interest in the last couple of days. A quarterback situation that going on in the last couple of weeks has really been one of the more underrated storylines in the NFL. Contract negotiations for quarterbacks are always the biggest in any quarterback storyline when it comes to football. It's always the easiest thing for people to sink their teeth into. But one player at that position in the league this year whose contract is coming due, it represents a really difficult decision to make. Looking at Lamar Jackson and the Ravens' contract negotiations, and why I think it will have some relevancy for Malik Willis specifically. Lamar Jackson is next in line to be paid as the highest paid quarterback in football. Typically, that's what we see happen. We see Patrick Mahomes. His rookie deal starts to expire. You see him get a 10-year, $500 million contract. And Patrick Mahomes sets all kinds of records for how much money he's just gotten paid at that position. And then the next year it happens with Josh Allen. And then the next, who knows? But in line for that is Lamar. So quarterbacks right now, on average, are making at that end of the spectrum with the kind of resume that all three of those players have, whether it's MVPs, Super Bowls, or in the case of Josh Allen, playoff success and obviously high ceiling. What do you do with Lamar Jackson as a $44 million a year player? Because that's what quarterbacks are making right now. And I've been looking at this and following it along. One, because he doesn't have an agent. He's self-represented. So Lamar doesn't want, if Lamar gets a $44 million a year contract, Lamar doesn't want an agent making 3% of that. Respect. If you can find a way to do it, that's good business. That's not money you want to give up if you think that you have the leverage to do that anyway. Now, Lamar's out here on Twitter, his Twitter headline or his homepage image is just a bunch of gold teeth saying, I want $, $, in a smile, which is tremendous. Lamar's out here leveraging his own position. He knows Ravens fans are going to see that. He knows people like me and others in NFL media are going to see that. And we're going to gravitate towards it. We're going to start talking about why the Ravens haven't paid Lamar Jackson yet. But why I think it's an interesting case study for Malik Willis, obviously way, way, way in the future. Because, one, the percentage chance just by hit rate of quarterback, I mean, it being such an infinitesimal chance that these guys actually pan out in tangible ways, first-round pick or otherwise. Malik Willis is a third-round pick. The odds are actively against him. Not got anything to do with him, not got anything to do with his situation, because I believe both are pretty ideal. But it's just a very, very small percentage hit rate for quarterbacks in the league. So I'm looking at Lamar and saying, okay, RG3 was the first kind of case study for this. Now, Robert Griffin III was smaller physically. Lamar Jackson and Malik Willis are both they are more physically durable. They're the next evolution of quarterbacks coming into the league. Basically, where teams and the NFL has adopted the policy, we're just going to do what high schools and colleges do. We'll play the best athlete at quarterback, and once he refines his skill set, we'll be able to do more dynamic things with him as a part of an offense. Lamar Jackson, it's like Derrick Henry. Lamar Jackson is the Baltimore Ravens offense. Now, you can hear that and make snide jokes about, oh, that's great money, $44 million a year for a wide receiver, because there are plenty of jokes or a running back, whatever you want to call Lamar, to try and denigrate his abilities at quarterback. I personally think that's dumb, because the game is evolving around us and people are either unwilling or not smart enough to pay attention with the evolution of the game. Because, by the way, that running back or wide receiver, whatever you want to call him, the only playoff win that he has is currently over the Tennessee Titans at home in Nashville. So it's not like he's been an ineffective player. He's an MVP. But $44 million and the precedent of things like a 10-year contract or $230 million guaranteed in the case of Deshaun Watson, just down the road in Lamar's own division. I think this is a fascinating case study for, all right, you can pay the quarterback if he plays differently, because at some point the concern with Lamar is he's the thing that makes him so incredibly special is that he is more athletic than the most athletic thing you've ever seen in your life. How many people could make Jadeveon Clowney and Myles Garrett look that foolish at what it is that they do for a living? There's not many. But how long can it last? Do you expect Lamar Jackson to be able to be that much more athletic than the next player or the next defender for 10 more years? Realistically, the answer is no. So as teams kind of evaluate, all right, do quarterbacks become more disposable unless they're different kinds of special? Tom Brady, Patrick Mahomes, Josh Allen seems to be trending in that direction. But outside of that, Aaron Rodgers, outside of the top tier, the best in the business, the 5 or 6 guys, let's say, that consequentially make a difference at that position for your football team? Can you find ways to make it more disposable? Because Lamar Jackson being left out of the top 10 quarterback list on ESPN, today it's wide receivers, yesterday it was running backs, list season is in full swing. All these different things that you're trying to process and saying, okay, is the league trying to tell us something else? Does the league view Lamar as more disposable than your average quarterback might be? Because I think if you're trying to find ways, for example, to elongate Derrick Henry's career, if you decide that Malik Willis is going to be the thing that can help propel you into the future, okay, great. You can find creative ways to incorporate what Malik Willis does best on top of what skill set he may develop as a professional quarterback, which he's currently in the process of. But how can you get creative with the offense and find ways to make Derrick Henry more effective for longer? Well, you can get creative in packages that we're probably going to see this year, I would assume, as long as they're comfortable with Malik. And we'll see how that progresses in just about 2 weeks, or literally 2 weeks, once training camp gets underway. How much more disposable, though, does it make a quarterback with a skill set that provides more versatility, but does also open you up more often to taking hits? And you're playing a different style of game. And you're looking at a situation and saying, okay, this may be the next quarterback in line to get paid, but is it going to be sustainable on something like a 10-year contract? How Lamar Jackson's situation with the Ravens plays out in the next couple of weeks is going to be interesting, because I assume they're going to want to get that done before the season. It's Pusha T. Yesterday's price is not today's price. You got to be paying attention to that. The Ravens have already done that experiment once before. Joe Flacco won a Super Bowl off that. Brandon Williams has just joined us in studio. We're going to come back and talk to Brandon about the charitable efforts that he is doing in the local community and why you should be supporting it, coming up next. Welcome back. All right, we got Brandon Williams in the building. Found his way here. Lucas, let's go ahead and cut on his microphone.
Hello.
What's
Look,
happening?
Mom, I made it.
Brandon Williams, at Brandon NBMINC is where you can follow him on Twitter. Diehard Titans fan, and he is doing some great work out here in the community to feed hungry kids, not just at this time of year, but all year round. Brandon, I appreciate you coming in, brother.
Man, thank you for having me, man. I really appreciate you allowing me to use your platform today. I really do. Thank you so much.
No, it's the least that I could do. Now, we were in the middle of a discussion earlier, right before we came on the air. Brandon had been kind enough to ask me how my weight loss situation was going, because I'm being dragged across the surface of the sun on the internet by people at like Corked Bats and Taylor Lewan.
That video was rough.
Would you, because Austin Huff is a friend of mine, the guy that put together that video, would you still be friends with that person if somebody did that to you?
Well, yeah, me personally, I would.
Well,
I like I like the crack jokes.
There's some forgiveness built in.
Yeah, definitely.
But we were chopping it up about that, and obviously, in everything right now, there is extra cost. Now, I'm sure you listening in your car, whether you're streaming us at the office, watching on YouTube, or wherever else on Zone TV. By the way, Brandon looks just fantastic in here, dressed up to the nines, making me look like a slob in my own house. It's brutal if you're watching on Zone TV. But additional costs obviously bring considerable strain. So, Brandon, I want you to tell the audience about what it is, the work that you're doing, how you came to this particular mission, and why it is that your expenses have increased so much throughout the course of, where we've seen inflation all over the place.
Okay. All right. So I'll start off with how I became a pastor. I'll start off with that. My father, he founded the ministry in 1989, the late Pastor Harry E. Williams Jr. And in 2006, on November the 10th, he was tragically taken away from us by a drunk driver. And about a year later, in 2007, that's when I was installed as the pastor. And at the time, we did not have the food ministry going at the time. We still had other arms of ministry that we were doing in the community. One of those things, we were going into the prisons and speaking to men there. It was a program that we were doing called Better Fathers, Better Families. And another pastor saw me doing that and said, hey, I want to show you this. And he showed me this food program, and I knew right away that it was something that God wanted me to do. I remember, now I'm a spiritual person,
sure,
and so some of my answers may be spiritual in nature. I always think about the less fortunate. When I lay down at night, I pray for the less fortunate. When I sit down to eat my food, I pray for the less fortunate. I remember Mom, and just always telling me, don't waste this food, because there's people over in Africa that would love to be in your position.
Sure, I think we've all heard that line from a parent a time or two.
Right, and so I would pray and ask God to bless the less fortunate. And one day, I believe in my spirit that I heard God speak back to me and say, "You do it." And it lines up with Matthew chapter 25, where it says that when you've done it to the least of these, your brethren, you have done it unto me. And so I took the challenge, and I went on and started, feeding these children in the community through the USDA Summer Food Service Program and the Child and Adult Care Food Program. It is a reimbursement style type of grant, and so we have to fund everything that we do up front.
Yeah.
And we are then reimbursed by the USDA, and it is administered by the Tennessee Department of Human Services. And so we're reimbursed every month, once a month, after we've fed, whatever number of children that we fed for that month. And recently, as you already know, inflation and all of that stuff has gone up. Milk used to be somewhere around 25 cents. I think it's like 33 now. And the boxes that we use to put the food in and to hold the temperature, they used to be, $75. They're $150 now. Everything has gone up. Gas has gone up. And so we have to take the food from the kitchen to the site. We have just a lot of increased cost. And leading up into this point, we had a series of unfortunate events that came about, and all of us went through them here in Nashville. We first started off with the tornado in 2020. And so
absolutely.
That was unexpected school closures. And so when that happens, all of our food is pre-ordered. So we get a lot of cancellations. And so all of the food that we ordered, we're not able to serve. And so we're not able to be reimbursed for that cost that we incurred during that time. Right after the tornado.
Now, just quickly, that's a net loss for you guys.
That is a net loss for us. And then right after the tornado, COVID-19 happened. And then all of the schools closed. So we're feeding in some of the Metro Nashville public school systems, after-school programs, athletic programs. We're also feeding in Rutherford County school systems, athletic programs. We're feeding in the community centers. We're feeding Universal Studios out in Wilson County, the gymnastics studio. We're feeding in taekwondo. We're feeding everywhere in apartment complexes. And when we have things like this happen, those cancellations come in, and these people, they don't need the food. And so we end up losing, because we're not able to serve those meals because we're only reimbursed based on the meals that we serve.
Right.
And so, after 2020, after the pandemic, we had the bus driver shortage. Every parent that's listening to me knows that Metro Public Schools was calling and asking us to come and pick up our kids if we could, because they only had 2 buses, or, and sometimes our children would get home from school very late, And so the schools did not have those buses to get the kids from the school to the after-school programs at community centers.
And for working parents, I mean, obviously everybody listening to you can identify with that if they've gone through a similar experience, and I know many people have. That's not something that you can take for granted, that people are just going to be able to adjust their schedule and go pick up their kids after school. That's not how it works.
Right, and I think Metro Public Schools has something on the table for bus drivers. They're hiring right now under their new pay rate structure, and so I'm hoping that, if you're listening and you need a job, I hope you, reach out to them and apply, because these children, they need you.
Yeah. Brandon Williams here with us on 104.5 The Zone. He's the director of New Beginning International Ministry. They work in the community and several of Middle Tennessee communities, feeding children across several different situations. Something you've brought up specifically, and by the way, Lucas, the link to donate, we're tweeting that out. The GoFundMe page for the program that Brandon is talking about and is looking to receive support on, because so many, for all these different institutions that we're able to bring in and speak with people like Brandon about, there is such a lack of consistent support that it does tend to turn, it seems an unfair pun to make, but feast or famine a little bit in how often or how consistently those kind of support methods come through. So anything that we can do, certainly we wanted to help be a part of it. Now, you were doing this with some of the Titans players at their camps for kids who attended. How did that come to be?
Well, I saw that they had a camp, and I reached out. The first Titans player that we reached out to was Derek Morgan, and we fed his camp, all-pro football camp, 2 years in a row. And shortly after that, we reached out to DeMarco Murray during his time here with the Titans. And so we fed his camp 2 years as well out in Brentwood at D1 Sports in Brentwood out there. And this particular summer, we were actually scheduled to feed A.J. Brown's football camp. Yes, we were actually scheduled to feed A.J. Brown's football camp until he got traded.
Oh, AJ's in the news today as well. Top 10 wide receiver list is out, and AJ's not on it.
It was so heartbreaking. It really was.
Well, because you're a diehard Titans fan.
Definitely.
This is your bread and butter. I've seen Brandon on social media for a while now, and he's always interacting with the Titans fans in the community. Obviously, it's something that is not just baked into the fabric of community, but it also it seems in working with people like I know Derek Morgan. Not overwhelmingly well, but I know how active Derek is in terms of community activism and how much he looks to do. I imagine that those are great resources for people in your position to be able to not just have, but also to kind of learn from, to see how they're going about those similar kind of activities.
Yeah, so it was a perfect marriage for me. I love the Titans, and I love doing, community work. And so if I can serve alongside of, one of the Titans players, that was just a bonus for me, And so I appreciate them allowing me to come and to serve the community with them. And I remember, I think it was the 2017 season when we went to the playoffs that year. We hadn't been to the playoffs in quite a while.
That's right.
That very last game, I actually got to watch the game with DeMarco Murray in the skybox and PK Subban. And so that was just a treat. So, I would say the Lord was blessing me.
Well, we are hoping that you guys will feel inclined to help bless Brandon and the work that he and his group are doing. The GoFundMe account for what it is that they are trying to raise. We've just tweeted out from the 1045 The Zone social media accounts, and as well as my account at Buck Rising. Of course, Brandon, you can follow at Brandon NBMINC on Twitter to learn more. To leave the audience with one message outside of, that you guys are in need of support, what do you want to kind of convey to the people listening?
Well, there's about 12 million children in America that are without food. The statistic is every 1 in 6 children are going without food. And some of these children are not eating unless they're in school. And so during the summertime when school is not in session, how will that child eat? And so that's where we come in at. That's where the USDA has stepped in at. That's where the Tennessee Department of Human Services has stepped in at, of which we are sponsors, carrying out the work for them in the community, along with other sponsors. We're not the only sponsor, but we were, like I said, the second largest food nutrition program in Middle Tennessee. And so we want to keep this going, and it doesn't only just help children. We're able to provide jobs to people in the community as well, college students who are trying to get their degrees. The flexibility of our program allows them to work and still go to school and get their degree. Some have gone on to Vanderbilt, some have gone on to Duke University and other prestigious institutions. And so I just want to keep this going. I don't think we should let this die.
Absolutely not. Brandon Williams, kind enough to spend some time here with us in studio. So let's not let it die. Let's lend him some of the support that you guys have been so great for all the different organizations that we have had the opportunity to hear about their message. The GoFundMe page is available on the 1045 The Zone social media accounts. And throw Brandon a follow on Twitter, not just for good Titans stuff, but for all the great work that he and his group are doing as well. It's a pleasure to meet you, my man. I appreciate you coming in.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much.
We're going to get into a conversation about this top 10 wide receivers list. I may have spoiled it because AJ's not on it. And we're going to point and laugh at him next.
I did. Of course. It is 12:02. Good afternoon from the Superbook.com sports desk. I'm Lucas Panzica. NHL free agency started today, and the Nashville Predators have signed forward Jimmy Huntington and goaltender Devin Cooley to one-year contracts. The Atlanta Braves currently going into the top of the third at home against the New York Mets. They trail 1-0. It is an opportunity to get to half a game back of the Mets at the top of the NL East. Tonight, Nashville Soccer Club back in Geodis Park hosting the Seattle Sounders, looking for their first home win since May 18th. NSC last played Seattle in the season opener, a 1-0 win at Lumen Field. Kickoff tonight at 7:30. For all your foundation repair and waterproofing needs, visit USSTN.com. Breaking news at once and your home for the Titans and Vols. This is 104.5 The Zone.
Wednesday, welcome into 104.5 The Zone. We're happy to have you here. We being Lucas Panzica, who is behind the scenes making it happen. I'm Buck Rising. I'm here with you. We are here with you until 1 o'clock. 615-737-1045. We would welcome your participation as always. And I think that there is going to be a fun discussion to be had in the final hour of the show. Now, we had mentioned the top 10 wide receivers list. We'll get to that in a second. But because it's a Wednesday, of course, you know, if you're a frequent consumer of this radio show, whether it be by podcast, FM radio, live stream, whatever, you know that we do the dumbest thing in sports this week on Wednesdays. Now, I had a late submission for the dumbest thing in sports this week on Twitter that caught my attention. And I'd be curious to know if this is, because I haven't seen details on this just yet, but obviously it has great bearing on Titans fans. Ash Binks 2588 on Twitter. We put out the poll for what's the dumbest thing in sports this week. So Ashley has responded, what about training camp being limited to getting a reservation spot only open to season ticket members? Yes, I've heard about the parking issues. Also grew up going to camps. Couldn't afford season tickets. All the kids missing out on this is dumb. Are they doing training camp on reservation spots only? Have you seen anything like this? I should probably text somebody over there.
Yeah, I haven't
see
seen
if that's true.
I have not seen anything publicized about it.
Either I will be able to text somebody in the middle of this segment, or somebody's going to text me, because that's typically how these things happen. But if that's so, man, that sucks. Like, I understand the logistical problems with all that, because I don't know how many of you go to the training camp practices. And they've been closed for quite a while now, right? Not just because of COVID-19, but that facility has been under construction for what feels like 3 years. I feel like they came back from the AFC Championship game. They started construction on that new wing, and it's been in progress ever since. Now, I obviously haven't been over there, and it's been about a month since mandatory minicamp happened, so I assume there is substantial progress that's been made. But if anybody in the audience can verify that, because I myself have not seen that information. I haven't seen any information about training camp and what the availability would be like for Titans fans who just want to come, because they've always been free. And yeah, it's in the middle of the summer and you're hanging out on grandstand bleachers, and it's hot as hell and it's just a football practice. But yeah, Ashley's right. That's really cool for a lot of people, especially when they do things like joint training camp practices. I mean, it's a pretty unique experience. Have you just gotten confirmation?
Just had a caller, Money Miles, called in to let us know he just got the email. He is a season ticket holder, and he got the email that it is limited capacity for season ticket holders.
All right, because I know there's season ticket members in the audience, please do me the courtesy of screenshotting this email and tweeting it at us at Buck Rising, because I'd like to see the details on this myself, because this is relevant information for Titans fans who would hope to attend this, because it's always been wide open. In fact, you know, there would probably be additional interest now since it's been so long since they've done it. And, you know, obviously there's new parts and pieces you want to get a look at. And if you're a diehard Titans fan, this is the kind of stuff that you eat up. I literally just got an email about Titans training camp. I don't know if that's because we're on the air talking about this right now. Okay, I've gotten the dates for Titans training camp. An email has just arrived to me courtesy of Titans PR. Next week, we will have more. Okay, what they're saying is next week we will have more information available about open practices for fans, which will be limited in number and size due to space and parking limitations. So, yes. Ooh, that's nice to have my training camp schedule, though. That makes me happy. Anyway, so it does seem like there's going to be significant limitations. Puka says, I wouldn't be surprised. Jim Wyatt has said that it's going to be very limited. Parking is not an excuse, she says. For years, Titans provided a shuttle to and from parking to camp. That means I won't make camp again. I had wanted to go this year. Now, not to out Puka, but she is of an advanced age, is what I will say as a Titans fan. And that does matter for people who, you know, would otherwise have been excited or had certain limitations about how they're going to go about getting there, but still would like to attend, and things that have been previously accommodated. So again, it seems like, it's not seems like, the message that I've just received in my inbox is next week we will have more information available about open practices for fans. So as soon as I've got more concrete details on that for you, I would be happy to provide that to you. Jabbar Lewis just screenshotted this message that's been sent out to season ticket holders. Okay. It's almost, and this is courtesy of @Mr_JLu on Twitter. Thank you very much, Jabbar. It's almost time for Titans training camp. We look forward to welcoming season ticket members back to Ascension St. Thomas Sports Park for select practice dates in August. If you're interested in attending, please click, there's a button below, and submit your information by 5 p.m. Central Time, Friday, July the 15th. I mean, that's 2 days, right? I don't know. I mean, okay, like I said, there's more details that are coming apparently on this, but like initially 2 days notice would not be sufficient for dates that have yet to be named for people to attend camp. And it doesn't say on my email which practices will be open to the public. Sometimes it does. You will receive a link via email on Monday, July the 18th to reserve your practice date. Reservations include you plus one guest. Please note, due to capacity limitations, all available dates will fill quickly, and with the anticipated demand, we will be unable to accommodate every season ticket member submission. So it is just season ticket members.
Yeah.
How much I don't know how much Titan season tickets cost. I don't know what the price range on something like that is. Do you know?
No, it depends. I mean, I know the Fireball Fast Pass is a really affordable option.
Like $30 a game or something like that.
Right. It's like around,
but that's not a season ticket.
No, I mean, you get tickets for the whole season, but your seat kind of moves around. It's like around $300. But no, I mean, I'm sure it's a very wide range of prices there.
But still, you're having to pay on the front end for something that was previously free. And even if you're paying on the front end for the season tickets, now the thing that was free to everybody is not only not free to everybody, but it's limited even in the people who are paying for the season tickets. So here's what I'll say, just in fairness, all right? They are, last I saw, still under construction. It's been a logistical pain in the butt for us for 2 years, and that's with limited media capacity, right? Now, I would say that the construction that they have put up, this new wing, where they're putting the media people and other things as far away from football as humanly possible in a separate wing of the organization. Also, I think because they're building apartments all over Metro Center, and something about paranoid football people makes me think that somebody asked for that wing to be built directly in the line of sight of the new apartment buildings that are populating Amulet Lake. I don't know. It's just a guess. But that new wing is on the part of the practice facility fields that the bleachers previously occupied, like the biggest and the most number of grandstands previously occupied, for those of you who have been to training camps before. So that space just no longer exists. It's now concrete, steel, and windows. Now, I know there's like an observation deck, but I assume that's for people who are like sponsors of the team and things like that. So I don't know how many times I got to say this. Yesterday's price is not today's price. And what you are now being told is that the price has gone from nothing to something. And that is the price of a season ticket. And even then, the season ticket may not guarantee your opportunity to attend a training camp practice. Well, that's too bad. We're going to talk about this top 10 wide receiver list coming up next. There's something funny on there that Titans fans are going to just absolutely relish in. We'll tell you what that is. On the other side, I'm Buck Rising. It's 104.5 The Zone.
The Buck Rising Show is powered by Spring Hill Heating and Cooling. Visit springhillac.com.
Welcome back. Yes, indeed. Thanks very much to Spring Hill Heating and Cooling. Makes this fine radio program possible. 615-737-1045 if you like. That was a very soothing tone.
Brothers Osborne.
Okay. I have not listened to them since I saw them at CMA Fest, but I like them. I'm in on the Brothers Osborne. I'm like 10 years late to this, but I'm down for it. I like the vibe. Anyway, so the list season has populated. Oh, by the way, I have some clarity on the season ticket situation. Because like I said, there was, as soon as I said something like that into the microphone, I felt that there might be an update coming. So I appreciate Titans PR being very diligent on that. So there will be some dates for the general public. So not just season ticket holders, but that number is also going to be capped. So I'm assuming in the email that was sent to us that those details on how people who are not season ticket holders but also would like to attend training camp, how those things will be decided and you know how they will go about figuring out how many people on any given day can come. So we'll keep you up to date on the latest with that, but not just exclusively for season ticket holders, which is a big deal, right? Because there's a lot of, you know, if you're trying to grow a fan base, and they know this, they've been trying to figure this out for basically since they've been here. The whole fight for the NFL in Nashville was, okay, how can you kind of step up and be, you know, take advantage of a fan base that is so focused on college football and the SEC. Like the state of Tennessee, I think, were you and I having this conversation off the air the other day about the state of Tennessee basically being 3 different states?
Yes, we were.
As far as sports allegiance is concerned?
Yeah, like what Titans allegiances are like in East Tennessee and in West Tennessee.
Yeah, East Tennessee or West Tennessee for that matter, they largely give a damn about the Titans.
Well, I wouldn't say that. There's a ton of Titans fans in those parts of the state, but it's just not as much of this tribal, instinctive, generational thing because the Titans have been here since the late 90s, and Tennessee football kind of had that.
Well, I wouldn't say still, you know, we're 25 years into the Tennessee Titans, artists formerly known as the Houston Oilers, whereas that was, you know, 30 plus years, not that much bigger of a sample size. In fact, we're going to eclipse that here in the very near future of the Titans having been the Titans longer than they were the Oilers, should things stay on track. But I don't describe NFL fan bases as tribal. Like I don't find them to be that.
No, that's totally fair.
Now Packers and Bears.
Yeah.
But those are two. I mean, the Packers have been playing football for 100 years.
Yeah, Packers I think are the example.
And that's about as close to a collegiate field. That and Arrowhead, Kansas City. Chiefs fans are cheap, but they're very nice. They're very nice to everybody that comes to get their butt kicked at Arrowhead, as is typically the case in the Patrick Mahomes era. Anyway, so we'll put a cap on the training camp attendance thing this way. It's very important, and I'm not telling them anything they don't know, but for the purposes of growing a fan base in a community that in and of itself is growing exponentially, you want to have as many opportunities to bring people out who otherwise wouldn't go or who don't necessarily want to pay to be at something like that, or not necessarily pay to be at the training camp, but pay to be a season ticket member, and then by virtue of your season ticket membership, be able to attend the training camp. So it's just an important part for any sports franchise like that. You want to have things that are open to the public because it's expensive as hell, especially in the NFL. I had somebody call me. How often do you get people calling you asking you if you have like a ticket hookup? Does that happen to you a lot?
Not as much as you would think.
It is probably, I will say twice a week. Twice a week I get hit up about tickets in some form or fashion.
Most of my friends have season tickets anyway. So.
Well, but it's not just a Titans thing. Like people just assume that I have all of the tickets to every event.
Just in general?
Yeah, not just sports, like concerts too. They're like, hey, you know, the Rolling Stones are at Nissan. You got ticks?
Yeah, Leon Bridges at Ascend Amphitheater. What you got for me?
I'd love to be able to be in the pit for Elton John. Can you make that happen? No, like the Titans don't even want me at their events. All right, I get a credential, and they don't want to be giving me free food and free parking and all these things. They don't want me at the sport. Nothing good comes from them from me being at the sport. So much less do I have tickets to give away. Of course not. Actually, that's not true. I have Titans tickets on every Thursday during the season, which I believe is sponsored by Kentucky Legends. So we do have tickets to give away in those specific circumstances. But at least twice a week, somebody hits me up for tickets. So I had somebody yesterday hit me up for tickets about the Cowboys game, Thursday Night Football here in Nashville. It's, I believe, later in the season. I want to say it's the second of their Thursday Night Football games. They have Green Bay as well. I'm going to pull up the schedule just to double check. But, it's a primetime game. It's a Thursday night game. It's a premier team. Well, a Cowboys premier team. Maybe not. They're a premier brand. Are people talking about Cowboys Super Bowl? Are we doing that again?
Cowboys are.
Well, yeah, Cowboys do it every year.
Right.
Cows haven't won anything meaningful since, in my lifetime. The Cowboys do nothing for me.
They are a franchise that could feasibly fire their head coach if they do not win the Super Bowl, right? Like, I feel like there's only so many franchises in the NFL this year that you could put on that list.
No, I think Jerry Jones and Jason Garrett basically is meat puppet for the better part of his tenure there. I think as long as Mike McCarthy is going to do what Jerry says, then Mike McCarthy is going to be the Cowboys head coach until it becomes untenable. So the Titans and the Cowboys play Week 17, Thursday Night Football. Oh, that's New Year's Eve weekend. Well, that's lovely. I'm not going to have to work New Year's Eve. That's a wonderful development. My relationship may keep intact through New Year's Eve. That's great to hear.
Well, no, because you got to stay home. You got to watch the college football playoff.
Oh, damn.
So relationship unintact.
No, that's only for you. But the nosebleeds are $300 at the Cowboys Titans game, and so that's why I'm being hit up in July for a game in December, because the price is only going to rise on that game. So it's not cost effective. It's not always cost effective if you are not necessarily looking at your finances in the black right now and saying, you know what, $300 for a ticket. Theoretically, that's not with parking, that's not with food, that's not with booze and everything else that goes into that. So you're talking about a decently expensive affair. Didn't you have a story the other day about Nissan and Bridgestone being two of the most expensive venues in sports right now? I don't remember where the publication was. Lucas brought that to my attention. Maybe he can have that or find that by the end of the segment.
Yeah, I'm going to track down this email that I received on a study that was done that, as far as cities go, like combining prices with every professional venue within that city, Nashville is at the top of this list, study that was done.
That's interesting.
Yeah, I'm going to see if I can pull it up here.
Anyway, it's a long way of saying free training camps are important because not everybody has $300 a ticket to spend. Oh, you have it?
Yeah, so I get an email. Study names Nissan Stadium and Bridgestone Arena in the top 2 most expensive sports venues in America. This was a study done by money.co.uk. So a British study was done for the most expensive sports stadiums in the U.S. Nissan Stadium.
Are we outsourcing our lists now?
I guess so.
Okay.
And I saw this study shared kind of across some media. Nissan Stadium, number 1.
Number 1?
Yeah, it's looking at basically average beer prices and soft drinks and hot dogs. It says that for beer they have $10.50, which checks out. Soft drink $5, hot dog $6, game ticket average of $94, and then Bridgestone Arena is number 2 with the average beer price of $9, soft drink $4.50, hot dog $5.50, average game ticket $102.54. Allegiant Stadium in Vegas is number 3. T-Mobile Arena in Vegas also number 4. SoFi is number 5.
How could that possibly be so?
Now, that's just the way it sort of averages out, like the total cost, which includes like a taxi or an Uber from the city center. That's where Bridgestone Arena has one of the lowest prices, right? Because if you take an Uber from like Lower Broadway to Bridgestone Arena, first of all, that's a dumb decision. Just walk to Bridgestone Arena.
Just exceedingly lazy. Get your steps.
Second of all, it's listed as $411. But at a place like SoFi Stadium.
All right.
It just totally varies. Like nightly Airbnb cost in Nashville is going to skyrocket. That's like $617 according to this study.
I don't know how the Airbnbs are so expensive. That's all I don't think anybody actually lives in my neighborhood. I think they're just all building Airbnbs. Like they're tearing down homes that have been there since 1913.
Yeah.
And putting in Airbnbs because I have never in my life seen so many bachelorette parties in North Nashville.
According to this, an average beer at a Vegas Golden Knights game is $14.
So okay, and like. We run into this problem all the time because like I don't know how to not sound pretentious and say I don't pay for things at games because it's just by nature of my job. Like there's no way to not sound like a jerk when I say that though because I don't pay for parking and I don't pay for food or drinks. Does that you said that checks out pricing wise?
Oh yeah, you go to a Preds game, you'll pay $12, $13 for a beer, right? Like a tall boy, maybe $9, $10 for a regular domestic beer. And this is not just the stadiums. Like I said, it averages a taxi or an Uber, nightly Airbnb cost.
I need to start paying attention to what I'm paying for beers at Giotta's.
Parking your car. Like it takes the average of all those things and then adds them up for the total cost.
I think that's the only event. Well, no, Sounds game. I haven't been to a Sounds game yet this year. So I don't, that's a different kind of an animal.
Yeah, for me, like $10, $13, that's like a routine price to pay at a NHL or NFL game. In my experience,
I mean, that's normal. Like
beverage.
I go to, I know, okay, no free ads, but like I have a favorite bar in the Gulch that I like to go to. It costs me $25 to get a tequila soda. You know what I'm saying? So
yeah, I'm out on that.
Well, I mean, but it's not like East Nashville is that much more cost effective.
Oh, no, I completely disagree.
What?
You are not, if you walk into a spot in East Nashville and you ask for you say tequila soda.
Yeah, but not like Wells tequila. Like I want to not drink swill.
Gotcha. But still, they say, it'll be $25, please. I think there are legions of people that would turn right around and walk out.
There is one particular bar, again, I have nothing against naming names, but like, Rosemary in East Nashville. It's not like it's inexpensive for me to get a Don Julio soda.
No, you're right.
You know what I'm saying?
There
like
are
it's
some places.
That's not, but I'm not like where am I going for the cheap booze? It's probably not a bar I want to be at.
I don't know. I disagree. There's some good spots. Like an average beer in East Nashville is a whole lot cheaper than an average beer in the Gulch or on Broadway.
I'm trying to think of the last time I drank beer with you at the last soccer game we went to when they lost to who? No, they drew.
They drew Portland.
They drew in overtime or extra time. Yeah, I think they were, what are they, like $13? I see, that doesn't strike me as being outside the norm.
That is just at a sporting event, right? Like you go to a sporting event.
No, I'm talking about like a bar. Like I think I'm pretty, I mean, I need, this speaks to a larger ignorance that I need to be paying attention to more. But like, I'm assuming that you're charging me $13 to $15 if I order a beverage.
And I despise going to Lower Broadway because I don't want to pay $9 for a Miller Lite. I do not want to pay.
I think that's what they cost.
My God, no. Oh
what?
My God, no. No, you should be paying $3, $4 for a Miller Lite, man.
Buddy, I haven't paid $3 for a drink since college. You're kidding me. I don't know if we're running into a Two Americas type situation here or what, but there is, under no circumstances do I think I'm being charged less than $10 for a beer anywhere in the city at any point. Like it just, and maybe I'm going to the wrong places. And maybe it's just a product of where I'm hanging out on a regular basis. And like, I don't go out that often, but I'm not shocked when somebody brings me a bar tab and it says, yeah, you ordered three or four $25 tequila sodas. That doesn't, like, I don't get sticker shock on that anymore because it's just happened. It's just like, it's like going to Miami. The first time I went to Miami, South Beach on spring break. A poor college kid. And, well, not a poor college kid. So we had gone to this bar, Blackbird Ordinary in South Beach. Bunch of my, one of my roommates was from Key Biscayne in Miami. So we went down there, a bunch of his buddies. Took us to Blackbird Ordinary. I ordered Jameson shots, okay? Because at that time I was still drinking whiskey. And this waitress came back. This waitress came back with Jameson shots, and she said, okay, that'll be $27 or something like that. I thought she was talking about for the round. It was per Jameson shot.
Oh.
$27.
Oh my. Oh.
South Beach is like, I feel like I'm paying South Beach prices when I go out in Nashville anymore. I do. Now, like I said, Lucas could probably find me a dive bar where I'm paying. What did you say Miller Lite should cost me?
Like $3 to $4.
That's just not true. I don't think that doesn't exist. You're lying. You're lying to people on air.
If you're paying the same amount for beverages as you pay at like a concert or a sporting event, then you are going to go bankrupt.
I mean, well, but that's the thing. Like, I don't have to spend money at the sporting event on food and booze.
Sure, but you go to Preds games, you go to soccer games, right? You go to concerts.
But we are fortunate to have many sponsors that have suites at the the Preds games. So typically, there are beverages and food in the suite, which I'm very grateful.
You're doing a great job relating to our audience.
I'm trying. Listen, man. I'm trying. This is why we can't have these conversations.
Michael tweets us, let's just come to the conclusion that Buck Rising is bougie.
I mean, I'm sure there are people in the audience who can identify with what I'm talking about. It's just probably not the majority of the people.
You're getting taken advantage of, is what V-Love says. At Buck Rising is getting tourist taxed. Hate to see it.
Well, I mean, I probably deserve it.
You're getting taken advantage of as much as the bachelorette parties that come down here and in the beverage prices.
Yeah, but it doesn't bother me anymore because it's been happening to me for so long. Like, I don't think I don't know. I don't sweat it that much. Anyway, it's a two America situation. Do we have time to laugh at A.J. Brown? Do you want to do that here?
I mean, I guess there's always time for that.
Well, I know we had kind of taken the position on AJ that we had on Traylon Burks' asthma and Jeffrey Simmons' hold-in. Like, hear no evil, speak no evil until something becomes available. Jael says you cannot be bougie if your name is Buck. Well, I think it's fair criticism. That's fair criticism. But I would also say to you that maybe I'm overcompensating for how not bougie the name is by lifestyle choices. Brandon Rushing says a Miller Lite is about $4.50 places, most places around town. Downtown probably $7. I mean, I live downtown, so I go out downtown more often. Like the Fifth and Broad situation is great. Like that 1230 club up on the roof.
I have not been into Fifth and Broad yet.
See, I love that. Well, you haven't been to Fifth and Broad at all?
No, not once.
Well, that's surprising to me because you're a food person and they got a lot of good restaurants.
No, I actually have been meaning to check it out for a while. I've heard great things.
That's worth going to. So like 1230 club, it's probably another situation like that. It's downtown. It's close to my house. I don't have to go whatever money I would spend on an Uber, I'm saving because it's logistically close. But yeah. I think I'm probably still getting tourist tax because I live in this most touristy part of town or most touristy district, I guess. Whatever. All right, let's laugh at A.J. Brown. So, this latest top 10 list in the NFL. It has come to my attention that they have done wide receivers today. I will read you the list of names that the NFL players, coaches, and scouts think are the top 10 receivers in the league. Number 1, Devontae Adams, Las Vegas Raiders. No surprise. Cooper Kupp, Jamar Chase, Justin Jefferson, Tyreek Hill, Stephon Diggs, DeAndre Hopkins, Mike Evans, Deebo Samuel, DK Metcalf. There a name I missed? There anybody in there that should have been there or is being paid like he is?
And maybe was drafted with some of those guys?
I mean, hell, was drafted after some of those guys. No, that's not true. I think he was drafted before DK, if memory serves. Because DK had like a bad combine, and all of a sudden people were freaking out about how inflexible DK's hips were. That's the maddest I've been in a combine.
It was this 3-cone drill. I think that's what did it.
I was spitting mad. I got to do a radio interview after the combine. Somebody was asking me about DK Metcalf's 3-cone drill, and it took me every ounce of restraint I had to not cuss at them on the air because I'm like, have you seen him play football? It's just, it's one of those things like, don't make yourself dumber with numbers like that. Oh, apparently we have Sounds tickets to give away as well. So 615-737-1045. Caller 5 gets a pair of Sounds tickets tonight. But yeah, A.J. Brown's not on the list. A.J. Brown is in the honorable mention category. Now, here's the thing. Like, honorable mention, there's some good players in there. It's Chris Godwin, it's Terry McLaurin, Michael Thomas, Mike Williams. Like, these are not bad football players by any stretch of the imagination. But you're talking about a $100 million player and the rare PR win for Tennessee after the fact, after the A.J. Brown trade, where everybody's looking around and saying, yeah, the league doesn't think that he's a top 10 receiver either, it makes sense why they weren't willing to go over and above or over and beyond what it would cost to keep A.J. Brown as a member of this roster. Jake is in Boston calling us. Hello, Jake.
Buck. So before AJ, I just wanted to mention regarding your tequila soda preferences. Knew you're from Egypt. I didn't know you guys were oil tycoons, so congratulations on all the money.
Well, the Saudis come to our country, they spend all their money, and then I use the Saudi money to, so basically I'm Live Golf. I'm basically paying for drinks and blood money.
Hey, people are going to criticize you, but it's a good place to be. I can't blame you.
You got to get the bag.
Oh, yeah. Real quick on AJ, I think he is a top 10 receiver personally, but who am I to dissuade from the opinions of league NFL execs? And also, I noticed last night that Treylon Burks has tweeted, I think, 3 times in the past 6 months. So I'm enjoying that. Yeah. Hopefully all that continues.
Yeah, that's a fair point. 615-737-1045 is the number. Treylon Burks he's more active on Instagram because I really thought that we were going to have to come into work and talk about. Did you see this picture I'm talking about?
No.
Him on the lake eating a bag of Doritos. I really thought we were going to have to come in here and do 3 hours of sports talk radio about the allegedly out of shape wide receiver eating a bag of Doritos on the lake.
I'm thankful that wasn't the case.
Well, he deleted the picture, so I'm sure somebody got to it. They say, no, you dope. Your quarterback just did this, but at least he was sponsored by Celsius. You're just out here with asthma on the lake eating Cheetos. No. It's the in shape anybody's ever looked while eating a bag of Doritos. I don't think anybody could look that physically fit while eating Doritos. 615-737. I already did the caller 5. What are you talking about? You can't talk to me in my ear like we haven't just done it. You didn't do it.
No, it didn't take.
What do you mean it didn't take?
No, that wasn't the official giveaway.
What does that mean?
We got to do it again.
People would just stop calling for caller 5.
I told them to wait for the cue to call going into break.
That's not what you said to me. You said do caller 5.
I said we got to do it before we go to break.
You said it in my ear. People can't hear you producing the show in my ear.
I know.
I did it, and you didn't do it.
Do it again.
Caller number 5 gets a pair of Sounds tickets tonight. Maybe Lucas will deem you worthy, and we'll do the polls next. All right. Let's wrap it up. We're getting hounded on Twitter. I'm getting hounded on Twitter. It's a mistake. This is why we can't talk about things like concession stand prices. I'm never going to win one of those arguments. Or not even an argument. There's no way for me to not come off or for me to not sound like a jerk. There's just no possible way, which is why I feel like Lucas directs us in those places so that I can be made to look like a jerk and you can be the relatable one.
It's all a grander plan. There are larger things at work here.
Speaking of larger things at work, you guys have continued to impress us with the way that you have supported the Brooklyn Bowl bowling bash situation that we're throwing for the church at Mount Carmel's Youth Summer Camp program. We are over halfway to the 75 tickets that we have available to sell. We want to sell this bad boy out. So if you want to support charity and have a great night with fun guests, you can purchase your ticket online at 1045thezone.com right now. It's Wednesday, July the 20th. Your ticket includes bowling, shoes, food, drinks, and raffle tickets for some great prizes. You can get your tickets online again at 1045thezone.com. Preds made a move, didn't they? Free agency is officially open today in the NHL. Has there been any kind of transaction with the Nashville Predators today?
Couple of prospects signed on one-year deals. Forward Jimmy Huntington and goaltender Devin Cooley.
Okay. Is there anyone in particular you want them to sign? Like, are you looking for David Poile to go after anybody, even though he's just spent a lot of money on Philip Forsberg and who was the defenseman they acquired?
They acquired Ryan McDonough from the Tampa Bay Lightning.
That's a good player.
Yes, no, it's a great move. Two-time All-Star, two-time Cup champ. A move that might have been inconsequential if you couldn't get the Forsberg deal done. So you check both those boxes. Just goal-scoring depth now. I'd have to go out and look at who's available. So I don't have a name to give you, but you need goals. You need production outside of guys named Matt Duchene and Philip Forsberg.
Okay, so you need some kind of offensive competency to pair with what you. I mean, McDonough's not a bad offensive player. Like he's obviously an upgrade over what they had, but he can skate. Like he's competent, right?
Yes, I mean it really gives you a boost behind Roman Yossi's line, and it just gives the Preds a much improved blue line in general. And again, it gives you a cup winner in that locker room, which they have continued to state is their goal. Philip Forsberg talked about it being the one thing missing from his Preds career.
All right, let's do the polls.
I'm going to make you an offer you can't refuse. Because the polls have closed and the votes have been tallied, it's time for a poll update. And he's a good boy. Buck Rising show producer and correspondent, Lucas Panzica.
Presented by Two Rivers Ford. You can custom order any new Ford from Two Rivers. They'll deliver it to you as soon as it's manufactured. What's the dumbest thing in sports this week? Ashley says it's training camp being limited to getting a reservation spot only open to season ticket members.
Now, we have had an update on that since then, courtesy of Titans PR. We were told that there would be general public opportunities for people to attend Titans training camp, but that there will also be capacity limitations just because of the construction and parking.
Chris says it's probably Chris Sale in a minor league clubhouse corridor. Did you see this?
I did. Did you see what he said afterwards?
I missed that. I just saw the freak out.
So he was filmed he's on a minor league rehab assignment, and he was filmed just absolutely trashing a minor league locker room, like having a freak out. He got on the podium or wherever it is that they're interviewing these guys in the minor leagues, and he said it's on them for filming it. And he's kind of right. He's kind of right. You don't have that going. If you showed what the inside of an NFL locker room looked like on camera, like filmed it, and then put that out there for security footage purposes, you would be shocked at some of the things that are happening in there.
Ryan says that the fact that we have to suffer through college football soon in order to get to the Titans season, which I will whip right around back to him, Ryan, that is the dumbest thing in sports this week because you only have to, quote-unquote, suffer through college football for 1 week before the Titans start their season. And if you hate college football, you probably hate happiness.
I, as somebody who has slowly learned the societal importance of college football, what I would say to you is, like, how are you going to complain about more football? Football, all right? I got some of you addicts out here watching the XFL or whatever it is right now. No, it's not AF. What are they playing right now?
Well, the USFL just wrapped up.
That one.
Yeah, go Stallions.
Yeah. Okay. Are you a Birmingham Stallions fan?
Always have been.
All right, very good.
But that's my favorite thing. Oh, we got to suffer through this before. Okay, don't watch it.
Who says that? Nobody says that. You're doing the thing that we tell people not to do. You're taking the one comment and you're losing your mind out of it.
You're absolutely right.
Nobody else feels that way.
That's so true. What is the most wide open Power 5 conference in college football? On the field, said reply for SEC. Clearly nobody thinks it's the SEC. 34% say it's the Big 12, 28% Pac-12, 20% Big 10, 18% ACC. I think that checks out.
No, I mean, the Big 10 and the ACC need to be flipped. I think ACC needs to be higher up, but I understand why most people are looking at Clemson and saying what you are. It's just that they are so much more talented than everybody else.
We'll talk about this tomorrow, but who got better trade value out of their first-round pick? The Patriots with N'Keal Harry or the Titans with Isaiah Wilson?
I forgot about this poll. And
52% say it's the Patriots.
I regret that I forgot about this poll because this is a funny topic, but yes. N'Keal Harry got dealt from the Patriots yesterday for the Isaiah Wilson package. Tough scene.
Does this Vols recruiting run feel different from the recruiting success under Butch and Pruitt? 78% say yes.
I don't know. I want to be fair to Josh Heupel. I want to encourage excitement with Tennessee fans. I don't know if the hype is that much different.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
No, it's still just hope, right?
It's just sports hope.
Yeah.
And I think it's telling that Vols fans have been through this in cycles, basically in each of the last 3 years.
Yeah. I think people feel it's different because of the NIL era, and maybe that provides some sort of security for players having incentive to stay. But obviously the transfer portal throws a wrench into all of that. It's just a matter of if Heupel is that balance of recruiter, developer, and CEO, which neither Butch nor Pruitt were.
Those the polls?
Those are the polls.
Excellent. That is the show. Derek R. in the YouTube chat says, great show today, guys. 8.9 score. The scoring is back.
Thank you, Derek.
The end of show scoring. All right. Derek will be in charge of the end of show scoring. You are great as always. I'll talk to you tonight on A to Z Sports Prime Time. For those of you who consume it there. Radio show tomorrow. Josh Pate in studio. We're going to have a lot of college football stuff to talk about. Actual football. Probably do a little conference realignment stuff as well. Enjoy the rest of your afternoon. Keep an eye out in your favorite podcast feed for The Install with Greg Cosell. We're talking about a couple of different stories in the NFL today, and I will see you tomorrow on 104.5 The Zone.